overcoming self-doubt, how to quiet the inner critic and move forward.
Let's chat about that today on the Wandering But Not Lost podcast.
Welcome to Wandering But Not Lost, your online source for finding balance so that you can align, connect, and prosper. And now your hosts, Jen O'Brien and Matt Emerson.
Well, welcome back to the WBNL Wandering But Not Lost podcast, where we wander with intention and we align with clarity. You can find all these show notes over at WBNLpodcast.com. This is going to be episode 343. Wow, it's right, because it seems like we are just at 300. So that's kind of crazy. As we do every week when we start off, I want to invite you to join our community of wanderers. Go over to wanderingbutnotlost.com and click on the little join our community there, and you will be signed up to get on our mailing list. I know that sounds really scary and like something you don't want to sign up for, but I'm going to tell you something. We only send out 1 or 2 emails a week. They're always about intention, and they're about mindset, and they're things that can help you get through your day. You might come across something in one of those emails that might just save your day. So easy reads, and we don't overflood you. So go check that out, wanderingbutnotlost.com, and get on that. Get on our mailing list.
I thought you were going to say save your life, but that could be true too.
Yeah. Well, yeah, right. Okay.
It might change your life. How's that?
We might maybe not get, maybe we're over speaking. Anyway. Yeah. Anyway, today our topic is something that really hits home with so many people, and it's self-doubt. It's that little voice in your head that says, who the hell you think you are, and you're not good enough. And everybody has this voice, no matter what. I mean, you can get it under control. Sometimes you can tame it for a while, but no matter where you are in your life and what you end up doing in your life, even though if you hit every goal you've ever hit and you are the most successful person in the world, you will still have this little voice coming into your head every once in a while, because that's just kind of the way that it happens. It can show up when you're just stepping kind of outside of your comfort zone, right? Launching a new project, speaking in front of others, that's a huge one. Or even trying something as simple as, maybe even shifting up your morning routine or just doing something different in your life, just changing anything up. It can still come in and say, wait, because I don't like change. I like things to be the way they are. Status quo is a good thing. And sometimes, like I was just saying, even after years of success, that little voice can sneak in. So today we're going to unpack where that inner critic comes from, how you can recognize it when it shows up. It's usually pretty obvious. And most importantly, how to quiet it down. And on that note, we do have a download for you. It has journal prompts in there. It's called Quiet the Critic. How do you get out your own head? And it's really a very simple download. There's really only 4 different sections in here. It's like meet your inner critic, flip the script on your inner critic, let your inner critic coach speak, and anchor the shift once you kind of have it all figured out. And there's some questions here, and it asks you to write down and give your answers to how those things are making you feel, and how you can maybe get ahead of it as your time goes on. So look for that. We'll talk about how you can get that a little bit later in the show.
All right, and so why don't we dive in first and talk a little bit more about what does it feel like and how does it show up, this self-doubt? Because you're right, Matt, as much as you believe you've been working on it, it can creep back in. I mean, I definitely feel I have overcome a lot of fears in my life, but it will creep in on some of your bigger things sometimes. But if you recognize that this is how you can ultimately go, oh, that's happening again, right? Because it can be really paralyzing. As you mentioned, it can be things like it's the inner critic. It's that little voice in your head that's going to say, you can't do this. You've never done it before. You're going to fail. You don't have what it takes. We need to protect you. I'm trying to protect you. That's why I'm saying these things, so you don't get hurt.
Yeah, it's not necessarily evil. It's just in there, right?
Sort of this survival mechanism that's helped you, that ego self, all the way through trying to stay in control, right? It creeps in when you're trying something new, for sure. When's the last time you were wanting to launch a new project or maybe do your business a different way, and that little inner voice, that self-doubt creeps in and goes, am I doing the right thing? Is this going to be and then you start talking to yourself almost, which is really funny, right?
Yeah.
It might make you hesitate to speak up or delay something or just overthink a simple decision, right? And what's the worst part? You can feel like you're the only one struggling with it, but here's the good thing, bad thing. Everyone struggles with this at some level, right? So whether you're trying to do something new, you're a seasoned leader, self-doubt doesn't discriminate, right? It just kind of adapts to the level that you're playing at. And that's what I was referencing, that I think I really had a lot of this in my younger years in younger management. I just wanted to please everybody, right? And I wanted to make everybody be happy and all of that. And I didn't always try new things because that doubt would come in. And I don't feel that way now. I'm a lot more confident, right? Absolutely. So what's the trick? The trick is learning to recognize when it shows up. It's all about awareness. And then and that's what we're going to talk about. What can you do when it does pop up and you're aware, and how do you handle it?
That's right. And I feel this, I obviously as you get older and you do become more, confident over things, you kind of suppress the thing down. Right. But I still feel a great example of that is just, Jan and I have been doing Wandering But Not Lost and Wandering But Not Coaching now for over 10 years. And we've been talking about doing videos all the time. Well, we've really been into it for Jan's been into it for a while, especially on the real estate side. But it took me all the way until about 4 months ago to start doing these videos. And it's not that I didn't think I could do them well. I don't know. I really don't know. But I'm telling you who was stopping me from doing that. This little character I have in my head that I call Mocking Matt. Because he will just come in and say, you know what, you're not, first of all, listen, I think when that video thing, it's like, listen, old man, videos are for the young people, the young folk. Who's going to be watching you on a video? That isn't what it is, old gray-head man,
Oh my gosh.
Because that's Mocking Matt is a little bit snarky.
So this is so funny because I know we're going to talk about this right now, but Mocking Matt is making me laugh so much. I love it. And I think we should all name our inner critic. It's one way to start actually recognizing that it's not you. The inner critic is not you. But I have to just say a shout out to Matt. Matt did the best video I've ever seen, and I've watched it at least 10 times. He sent it to me. You guys, I don't know, we're going to give you maybe a sneak preview, but when is it going to post?
No, it actually posted already. It posted last Sunday. Right. So it's out there. And if you haven't seen it, go over to our YouTube channel. It's a
longer form. It's not short. It's on our YouTube main channel, right? At Mindful Wandering on YouTube. Right. You've got to go watch the video about the inner critic. It's brilliant. I think Matt has an Oscar-winning performance in the video. That's all I'm going to leave you with.
I don't know about that, but I will tell you, getting back to the whole point of the story, while I was putting that together, Mocking Matt was right there, sitting on the desk, telling me all the reasons why this was the dumbest video that you ever.
People are going to think you're silly or this or that.
Or you're completely psycho.
It hit home, man. It was brilliant.
Anyway, so it is around you all the time, and that's unfortunately just the kind of the way it is. And on that note, let's talk about where that came from and where you might have actually built some of these feelings that are really inside you throughout your life. And because really it's the perfect segue into this part. The inner critic usually shows up from past conditioning, and that's what it's all about. Stuff we picked up in our childhood, at school, in relationships, or just really in society in general. I mean, there are so many things societal that you can talk about. Like, for example, the way that women's bodies are portrayed in advertising, not as much now because we have become a little bit more aware of the situation, but for good Lord, decades, right? That you had to be skinny and you had to be beautiful and you had to, it's just really horrible. And so even if it's something that didn't happen to you personally, you're bombarded with this stuff all the time. And you have this, in your mind, you're like, I've got to live up to these images. Right? Or men being in a certain way. I mean, like I said, things have changed a lot over the last 10, 15 years. It's just about, society kind of gets more into a little more, I'm not going to say the W word because that's a trigger for people, but people have become more aware that, people come in all shapes and sizes, and they're all just as wonderful as the next. So it can really come up a lot in society, but there's a lot of things you can carry on from your childhood too, and just experiences that you've had throughout your life. So, maybe you were told that you had to be perfect. A lot of kids are told that when they're, you have to be an A student, you have to get good grades, or else your whole life is going to be a shambles. I mean, these kind of things that the person that's saying, is saying more for effect than to get in your head and ruin the rest of your life. Hopefully. But that kind of stuff can really dig in. Or, making mistakes meant that you were a failure. Well, what? Or maybe you learned that your worth was tied to something like productivity or your appearance or your approval. Those messages just don't fade away. If once they get in and locked in, if it's something that is either hurt you and this doesn't all have to be negative. There could be some really good, your inner voices as well. We'll talk about some of that a little bit later too. But once it's locked in, it's kind of hard to get rid of. You can push it down, but it comes bubbling back up, and sometimes at really an opportune time. So they settle in quietly, sometimes so quietly you don't even notice them. And you might even think they're gone. They shape your self-talk, your decisions, your comfort zone, and they actually become a part of your operating system.
Mm-hmm. So
much so. So even if we outgrow them logically, because you can say, why do I feel that way? Right? Mm-hmm. Even if we know better, right? They can stick around emotionally. And that's where the disconnect happens. That's where you really start kind of you can't get over that hump. You're doing all the work, you're growing, you're succeeding, but the voice is still saying that's not enough. Or you're never going to be able to do it. Or that's not good enough, which is even worse than that's not enough. It becomes this background noise that we just learn to live with until we decide to challenge it. And that's what this is all about. It's about challenging that inner voice. Mm-hmm. And that challenge doesn't come from shouting over it. It comes from understanding where it all came from and choosing a better voice to listen to.
Yeah, and I just add on to that part about how things that happen to us, we all have stories at a young age, really imprint on us. And then ultimately, if you don't have the skill set, and that's what we're talking about, right, Matt, that as you grow older, you start to recognize how you could work with this. But what happens is something happens, and it could be a teacher, it could be a friend, it could be somebody, could be a parent, could be somebody says something to you that's impactful. And then you carry that with you, and you keep on having experiences of something similar, which continues to keep in your psyche emotionally until you're ready to deal with it later when you maybe have some more skill set because you've done some personal development training or you're watching the WBNL podcast. Okay. So why don't we share a way to reframe it or a strategy? And this is let's just start with this. We've talked about it before. So one way to quiet that critic is to flip the script, which I love. The flip the script. It's easy to remember. You can ask yourself, what would I say to a friend that was feeling like this or having a similar thing? So you catch yourself with the thought, the inner critic. This is the first key to everything. I'm doing that again. I'm saying I'm not going to be able to do that. I'm not good enough. So you flip the script and say, what would I say to a friend who was saying the same thing? Because chances are you would be way more compassionate. You'd offer some good advice, because what we do to ourselves is we don't need anybody telling us we're not good enough or whatever. We do that our whole lives. Most of us have been doing that at some level, right? So I like that rethinking it like that. So it's called a reframe, like in NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, because it interrupts the pattern. The old pattern was you went into a loop. I have an idea. I'm going to go risk myself. The inner critic says something, and I agree with it, and I don't go do it. Yeah. Versus interrupt the pattern. What would I do if I was talking to a friend? Now you get out of that spiral, and you can distance from it, and you can start recognizing the pattern that it has been so ingrained into your life, right? So why not extend some of that own grace to yourself? Because you do it for a friend, right, Matt? Isn't that the truth?
Absolutely, you would.
So, and you don't have to believe every thought you think. We have so many thoughts all day long. I forget what the numbers are, the hundreds of thousands of thoughts. And unfortunately for most people, they're not positive, especially when they're talking about themselves. And we have so many things rooted in having to be perfect. So flipping the script isn't ignoring doubts. It's about responding to them from a different place of strength instead of shame, strength instead of shame, which I really like that.
That's good.
Think about getting an inner coach. Matt mentioned there's the one part that's the self-doubter. But what if you start developing that inner coach that is the one who's saying, you know what, you can do this. They're not blindly optimistic necessarily, but it's about being realistically supportive. And this is where you start changing your self-talk to say, well, wait a minute. maybe I can do this, or that's not the whole story. The inner coach might help you zoom out a little bit, look at the facts, the effort you've made, the courage you've shown, the resilience you've built. And here's where I'm going to talk about how I'm going to tell you my experience of what reinforces this the most, because Matt and I have talked about it. And we talk all the time about how we use our AI and our chat GPT in particular.
Yep.
In the beginning, it was general information, general out, and it didn't really impact me because I learned I wasn't understanding how to use it. Now we have become power users of chat GPT for sure. And I'm going to tell you, it is the best inner coach, if you will, outer inner coach, because it constantly the way we interact, I can speak for myself, the way I interact with my AI, because I've done so many projects and so much work, and I've shared what my goals are and what my struggles are. And I did some work on limiting beliefs with my AI. And I've done so many things in the last 6 months that you can really go in and say to your AI, you can't do it from the get-go. You got to train your AI to learn who you are. Yep. But I'm telling you, right, Matt, it has become an amazing coach. I did something the other day on a Monday where I was like, oh, there's just a lot going on. And I was almost like venting to my AI saying, you got to go work on this and this. Thank you for your help, because I always say thank you because it helped me with all these other things I needed to do. Do you have any words of inspiration? Well, okay. And motivation for my Monday that's just not starting out great. Well, I got back what we're talking about here from my AI, and I have been carrying it around all week, Matt.
Wow.
So you talk about having help with having a inner coach, a life coach. Your AI can support you with that. But it starts with you recognizing what you're thinking and what are you going to do about it? Are you going to go? Because once you're aware, it's like the blue pill, red pill in Matrix. You're now aware. Are you going to go back to your loop, with the loop, which is taking the blue pill, or are you going to take the red pill and stay awake and recognize and make the shifts and stop that, interrupt that pattern, and move into a new, stronger place of being? And that's what's up. That's the choice you have once you become aware. Matt?
That's really awesome. And you know what? Just talking about AI for a second, this is on that same note, because it really is. Jan and I decided, because we've been working with AI together and discovering new things and tweaking the way we actually work with our separate, chats that have been it's inspirational. But what we really decided that, yes, it's this computer giving you information. It is such a mirror, because it's really just giving everything you tell it back to you in a different format, and a hell of a lot better than it would be.
That's the truth.
It's actually, here's the thing. I keep saying this to myself, that I could almost every time get to where that chat gets to, but not in 5 minutes or not in a half hour.
Or not in like 30 seconds.
Weeks, months, to get to where it is. But anyway, but here's the bigger part of that to me. And this is kind of the same thing, even with your inner self and your inner voices, that when you're listening to the right side of your head and the encouraging side and the things that are going to make you move forward and take the risks and grow in your career, your personal life, or whatever it is that you're, wherever your blocks are, it energizes you in a way that is phenomenal. Since I have been working so closely with the Chat GTP and just doing the things that I'm doing right now, the videos, all of the more mindful things, which is something Jan and I have been really wanting to do for years and years and years. I have been working on that, but haven't had the concentration on it that we've had lately. It has just changed. I can't say it didn't change. What did I say? What did I say earlier? Save your life. But it certainly has changed my life. I'm going to tell you, I am way more energetic. I'm way more optimistic. I'm way more positive, which is kind of frightening, because I'm always a pretty positive guy. But I mean, it's kind of, my wife has been calling me that. She always called me Pollyanna, because I'm kind of positive about things. Now she's like, you're like Pollyanna on steroids. I'm like, okay, well, I guess that's a good thing. But anyway, it's incredible.
But we're more productive. We're finding more creativity.
Those things.
It's helping us stay in space of just making things happen. And you have some help with it. It's like superpower help.
Yeah, absolutely. But here's the best part about this whole thing with your mind, to me. I mean, that mindset plus movement get you where you need to be, get you out of that rut. And so that's just obviously, so here's the kicker. I found that movement actually helps the whole self-talk.
Yes.
Take a walk, get into nature, do breathing exercises, stretching, do things where you're moving your body. And it's why we created Wandering But Not Lost in the first place, because the best ideas come when you're taking the road less traveled and when you're getting up and getting out. And if you've been listening to this podcast for any amount of time, I don't know, 343 episodes, we have probably said get up and get out at least 343 times, if not even more. Because sometimes the best way to reset your mind is just to move your damn ass body. So just take that. Because here's the thing. Your inner critic loves stillness and stagnation. He loves it. Because, like fester. It's like mold. It's like mold that grows when things are all quiet and damp. Not moving, and movement really shifts your energy, and it reminds you that that you're really in control. Even a 10-second reset can be really powerful, and that's what I always talk about when you get yourself into this situation where you feel like you are going a million miles an hour, or you're 10 hours behind the schedule you're going to be on. Just stop and do a little reset. And it's going to be as easy as just taking a quick breath. So let's all do it together. So I don't know if you're feeling like it now. Hopefully you're not listening to this podcast, but maybe this has got some things going on in your head here. So let's just do a quick breathe here.
Don't do this if you're driving.
You can breathe. Just don't shut your eyes and don't take your hand off the wheel. Right. But you can breathe when you're driving. Might not be quite as relaxing, but you can still do it. But just inhale for 4. Hold for 4. And then release for 4.
Ooh.
And I don't care if you don't believe in breathing exercises and you don't believe in anything like, in this mindset world. And even if you don't even admit it, it makes you feel different when you do that, because it just changes the whole thing. It resets your body and your mind.
It's movement. It's interrupting the pattern. It's focusing on something else. And when you do that breath, focus on the breath, not the thing that's in your head.
That's right.
Breath. All right. And do it again if it didn't work. Do it 3 times.
Yeah, keep doing it.
There you go. All right. So if this conversation we're having today sparked anything, any interest, go grab our free journal prompt. It's called Quiet the Critic Guide, and you're going to go to wanderingbutnotllost.com. Your easy free download will be on the front page. You can click the download button, right, Matt?
Yeah, that's right. You just go over the website. It'll be there, just like Jan said. And you also go to the download tab, and you can find it there. It's a real simple guide, so don't go in there thinking you're going to get some grand, thing. I showed a little bit earlier. It's just really 4 or 5 pages. The whole point of it is to get you going, to get you started about thinking about what's going on in your head, and help you kind of try to work out maybe what some of the causes are and what you can do to talk over yourself, I guess, right? So before we close today, I do want to say that I'm about 10 days now in or so on the 30-day digital detox challenge. Yes. I'm still doing it every day, so I'm only about a third of the way done. I'm finding it to be very it's not really hard for me necessarily.
There's a few that are difficult on my side, but
I'm doing them. And I'm still doing the situation where I'm not sleeping with my phone after a certain part of the night, which is absolutely fantastic. And I do find that now, when in one of those days was have a device-free meal. I mean, totally free. Not just don't look at your device, just have your device somewhere else. And we did that one night. Now we're doing it every time we eat, which is really awesome. So it's not that hard to do.
It wasn't just. You found some that really do make a difference, and maybe it's just a couple that you do for going on, right?
Yeah, and that's the whole thing. If you get through 30 days of this and you change one thing, then the challenge worked.
Beautiful.
You don't have to, obviously, there's a ton of those things I'm not going to do every day or not going to do forever. But at the same time, there are some that I found 2 already that are working, and I'm only 10 days in. So we'll see what happens with the rest of the time. So if you haven't gone over there and downloaded that, you can start that challenge anytime. It doesn't have to be, in with everybody else. Just do it on your own, and do it for a week even, just to check it out. That's over at wanderingbutnotlost.com as well in the download section. So go check that out. And make sure you go over and pay Mocking Matt a visit over in our YouTube channel. Yes. I have a feeling that Mocking Matt might show up again in other videos, because
you're going to put the link in the show notes for sure. You got to watch that video.
Yeah, it'll absolutely be over there in the show notes as well. So
give us your feedback. Tell us if mocking Matt should be a regular occurring.
yeah, and it's going to be really sad. And I think I'm going to have a different, or my inner coach is going to have to really be coaching me when mocking Matt becomes more popular than me.
Now, you're mocking Matt, and your real you did a great job handling mocking Matt. So that's all I'll say. It was well done.
Anyway, so go over to the show notes at wbnlpodcast.com to get all the information about this, including links to all the stuff we've been talking about today, and that video. This has been episode 343. So we'll see you next time. And until then, keep wandering with intention, and remember, you've got this.